Alright, man, hear me out. I think that JDM is actually a harder matchup for Islam than Ilia ever was. And I think that it all comes down to what just happened in the Bilal fight. So let's get into this, man. Alright, so some pros and cons for Ilia. Obviously, he has elite boxing. His combos are crazy, and he has crazy head movement. Insane KO power, some of the likes that we've never seen in the UFC. Greco-Roman wrestling, defeated elite competition, obviously that being Max and Volk. And then a little bit of a sleeper, calf kicks. I mean, his calf kicks, they're pretty standard, but he does use them to set up his boxing later on. So some of his cons is that he's a slow starter. He has to get into this sort of rhythm before he can actually get an insane combo off to KO or TKO someone. And another con is he's pretty small for lightweight. Obviously, him moving up and stuff like that, it's gonna make him lighter in that weight class. And Islam's bigger for the division, so that's also not very good for him. And the last con that I have is that he has untested grappling, and the reason why that's in quotes is because I know that his first few fights, I think it was his first 6 fights or something like that, were all won by submission. And a lot of people talk about the Bryce Mitchell fight. I mean, he subbed Bryce Mitchell, which is great. But he subbed Bryce Mitchell, I mean, like 2.5 years ago, like almost 3 years ago at this point. And we haven't really seen his grappling since. It hasn't been tested at elite levels like against Max Holloway or Alexander Volkanovski, and he's obviously going to need that in the Islam fight. So, I mean, we see videos of it all the time, him rolling with his older brother and stuff, and that looks good. But like I said, it hasn't been tested at a high level, if you get what I'm saying. So now we have JDM's pros and cons, and he has elite boxing as well. I mean, the difference between him and Ilia is that JDM, I think, has better body work, and he has more volume than Ilia does. But Ilia has more KO power. They both have great head movement. But JDM just doesn't quite have the KO power that Ilia does. Now, I guess we'll see if that power translates from featherweight to lightweight for Ilia. Maybe it will be on a similar level to JDM when he moves up, but I don't think so. I think that Ilia's KO power is pretty standard across both weight classes, because it's, like I said, it's some of the craziest power that we've ever seen in the UFC. And then, yeah, JDM, I mean, he's just super gritty. Like, for instance, who was that? Gilbert Burns fight. He broke his arm and he still won that fight. So JDM is like incredibly gritty. He's never going to give up. He's got heart, and he's got the championship mindset. Also, JDM has a weight advantage over Islam, which is something that Ilia doesn't have going for him. And that, like I said, is huge because Islam is big for the lightweight division. He uses his weight against his opponents very frequently, and I'll go over that later. And then JDM also has insane defensive grappling. We saw that in the Bilal fight. It's vastly improved, and you might not think that that's enough for Ilia, but I'll tell you why later on. And he's pretty good up against the fence, actually. I was rewatching the Bilal fight, and Bilal had him against the fence quite a few times. And I know that Bilal is not as good up against the fence as Islam is, but still, Bilal is one of the best wrestlers in the welterweight division, if not the best wrestler. And he had him up against the cage several times, and every single time JDM escaped. And there were even a few times, like I think in the 3rd round, where he reversed it on Bilal, which is pretty crazy to think about. But that's not even what I mean by styles against the fence. He has insane pressure against the fence with his boxing combos, like when his opponent's back up against the fence. And why do I keep saying Finch? Fuck. But JDM, if he can switch you around, he has insane combos up when his opponent's up against the fence. And lastly, I have pace. I guess Ilia does have pace too. They're both very patient fighters. But I just think JDM is a lot more patient with the way he throws combos. He's always throwing a jab out there. He's not getting too excited about his combos. He's very calm in there. And yeah, I guess Ilia does too, like I said. But JDM's cons. Okay, so his head movement is a pro and it's a con. Because a lot of the times in the Bilal fight, I was thinking if Bilal just threw a kick, that would be very bad for JDM, because JDM had some pretty extreme head movement, and yes, it was good. It was very good against Bilal, because I don't really think Bilal throws a lot of kicks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the head movement was necessary to defense against that nasty double leg that Bilal has. But against someone who kicks more, that could be very bad for him. And then a con that I have for him is a very boxing-centric game. The reason why I didn't put that down for Ilia is because, I mean, we've seen Ilia grapple a little bit more. We haven't really seen JDM grapple as much. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Ilia actually has a stronger grappling, like offensive grappling game. JDM's grappling game seems like it's more defensive. So I mean, JDM's more than likely just going to, as soon as he gets taken to the ground, try to get back up and box again. So why is Islam so good at lightweight? I mean, is this even a question? Like, elite striking and grappling, constant submission threat, insane judo trips. He's big for the division, which is a huge factor. And then he's dominant and he has aura. The second that Islam gets in the cage, you can feel his presence. And I know that a lot of people think that aura is not really a deciding factor, but trust me, it is. When you step in the cage with Islam, you know that it's going to be a hard fight. You know that you're probably going to lose, because Islam is like the pound for pound #1 fighter. And having that sort of aura around you, it intimidates your opponent. It gets into their head and it makes them think twice about doing certain movements. So that is an advantage for Islam, whether you like it or not. Now, here are Islam's challenges at lightweight. So Islam doesn't shoot much out in the open. And hold on, sorry. Accidentally clicked. Fuck, my bad. Anyways, Islam doesn't shoot that much out in the open. Now you may not think that that's big of a that is that big of a deal, but the Dagestani fight, or the Dagestani style, is more focused around cage wrestling than it is shooting out in the open. And what that means is that they use their body weight to tire out their opponents. As you can see here in the Dustin Poirier fight and the Charles Oliveira fight, he uses this sort of pressure against the cage to wear his opponent out. And then he'll eventually go for some sort of trip or maybe some sort of wrestling takedown from there. But Dagestanis focus a lot on this cage pressure. You see Khabib do it all the time. And I know that Islam and Khabib, they fight very differently, you know, but the Dagestani style is very focused around this pressure heavy style, using your weight against the opponent. And like I said, Islam's very big for the division. You know, I don't know about very big, but he's big. He's bigger than most of his opponents, and he's stronger than most of his opponents. So he can do this in the lightweight division. He can afford to do this in the lightweight division. And this is a problem because when he moves up to welterweight, he's not going to be as big for this division. So will he still be able to do this in welterweight? That is the question. We don't know yet, but I think that it's going to, either way, I think that it's going to be harder for Islam to be able to do this in welterweight, because he's going to be facing heavier opponents. You know what I'm saying? It'd be a little bit easier for him at lightweight. Like, I think that he could hold down Ilia more than he could hold down JDM, if that makes sense. So why is JDM a harder matchup? Well, like I said, JDM has a weight advantage here, and that's huge because Islam focuses a lot on his weight. Like I was saying, I've said this like a million times, he focuses a lot on his weight. If JDM has the weight advantage, it's not going to be as easy for Islam to hold him down. Also, JDM still has power. He may not have as much power as Ilia, but he still has power. I think like 4 out of 8 of his fights in the UFC were because of TKO or KO. And his defensive grappling has significantly improved. I mean, you saw it in the Bilal fight. He defended almost every single. If he didn't defend the takedown, whenever he got on the ground, he was standing right back up or reversing it on Bilal. There wasn't a whole lot of moments where Bilal was dominating in a wrestling position. JDM was most of the time able to flip it on Bilal, which is crazy because, like I said, Bilal is the best wrestler in that division. And JDM's okay with higher volume exchanges. The problem with Ilia is that Ilia, he takes a while to get started. And Islam's not going to let Ilia get started. You understand what I'm saying? JDM is okay with higher volume exchanges. He'll be okay with, he doesn't have to find his rhythm. He can go straight in there and box with Islam. He doesn't have to get started. And like I said, JDM is pretty comfortable against the fence. In that Bilal fight, he reversed it on him several times. He was able to defend the takedowns. I don't think that it's going to be that big of an issue for JDM up against the fence. In fact, I think that if he can get Islam against the fence, he might have a potential for TKO. Or maybe even a KO. I'm not sure, but we'll have to see. And this is the X factor for JDM. JDM is training with Craig Jones. And if you don't know who that is, he's the second best no-gi grappler in the world. If you know, you know. I'm not sure if he actually is, but he says that all the fucking time. It's like a running joke. He was Volk's grappling coach, which is huge. He has a 4-hour instructional just on getting up. It's literally called Just Stand Up. It's inspired by Derek Lewis, who said, I just stood up, or whatever, in that fight. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But it's 4 hours just on standing up. And I think a lot of JDM's camp for this Bilal fight was focused on just standing up. And as you can see, it worked out well for him. And the reason why having Craig Jones on your team is huge is because Craig Jones is widely considered the best MMA focused grappling instructor in the BJJ community. But aside from I guess Khabib or something like that. But Craig Jones's style is very focused on anti-grappling, anti-wrestling, what have you. So JDM having Craig Jones on his team is a huge deal because we saw that JDM's grappling improved a lot from the last fight to this fight. And if he keeps Craig Jones on his team, who knows where it will be when the Islam fight rolls around. I guarantee you they're going to be working on cage wrestling a lot. They're going to be working on that a lot because they know that's where Islam's strong suit is. And this isn't Craig Jones' first time cornering someone who's fought Islam. Obviously, Craig Jones, he's cornered Volk before. I'm not sure if he cornered Volk for the Islam fight. I'm pretty sure he did, though. But if that's the case, that makes it even better for JDM because Craig Jones has seen Islam's style. And I think that Craig Jones is close to cracking this Dagestani sort of wrestling code. because Bilal wasn't doing nothing to him. And we know that Bilal has trained with the Dagestanis before. Bilal focuses a lot on pressure wrestling as well. He may not focus a whole lot more on cage wrestling, but he still focuses on putting his weight against his opponents. And if Craig Jones was able to figure that out, I think that he can figure out Islam's. I think that he can make it work for JDM to figure out Islam, is what I'm trying to say. So that is JDM's X factor. So now we're going to get into how Islam could win. So I honestly think that Islam, it's 50-50, but I'm leaning more towards Islam. I mean, Islam's extremely dominant no matter what weight class you put him in. He's pound for pound number one. Like, even if you take him out of lightweight and put him into a heavier weight class, he's still Islam. His grappling's better than Bilal. His cage wrestling's better than Bilal. His striking's better than Bilal. He's pretty much just all around better than Bilal, besides maybe like open mat wrestling. So like double leg, single leg, whatever. I think Bilal is better at that. But other than that, he's pretty much better than Bilal all around. And I think that off the top of my head, Bilal might have been the toughest test besides Islam for JDM. So if he can beat Bilal, he has a pretty good shot against Islam, I'm pretty sure. But like I said, this is going to be his toughest test because Islam is not Bilal. Islam is better pound for pound. Like I said, he's pound for pound number one. That means something. So he's going, even though he doesn't have the weight advantage, he's still pound for pound better than Bilal. He's still going to dominate the grappling. He's still going to dominate the wrestling, and he's still going to dominate, well, maybe not the striking, but he's going to dominate those other two things. And I think that he can hold down JDM for a decent amount of time. Maybe not every single time he gets him down, but there will be a few moments in the fight where Islam will get him down and be able to hold him down. And that will be very dangerous for JDM. So this is the X factor for Islam. And actually, it's not really his grappling. I think the X factor for Islam is more so his kicks. Like I said, one of JDM's weaknesses was his head movement in the Bilal fight. He was ducking his head super low. And we know that Islam has been training with Zabit. Islam's striking has already improved a lot. And we saw that in the Dustin Poirier fight, right? Islam has great striking. He has great kicks, especially. And we know, like I said, we know he's been training with Zabit. So if he keeps working on his kicks, he could catch JDM with a pretty brutal kick if JDM leans into it. And then the other X factor that I added is that he needs to find a workaround for the weight difference, because like I said, he can't use his weight against his opponents in this fight, at least not as much. So there needs to be some sort of change with his wrestling style. I don't know, maybe he is strong enough to hold down JDM. We'll see, but I think that there definitely needs to be some sort of change in his style, like some minor tweak in his style, to be able to hold down opponents that may be heavier than him. Because like I said, Islam is used to fighting opponents that are lighter than him. And I just don't think that JDM, I just think that Islam is going to be lighter than JDM coming into this fight. So that's pretty much all I got. Who wins this fight? Honestly, before the Bilal fight, I would have said Islam smokes JDM. But after that fight, I honestly think that it's pretty 50-50. Yeah, I'm not going to go over the reasons again. I repeated myself a lot in that video. But what do you guys think? Who do you think is a harder fight for Islam? I personally think that it's JDM. I think that Ilia may be better pound for pound. But I just think that in terms of comparing the fights between Islam versus Ilia and Islam versus JDM, I just think that JDM's a tougher matchup for him. And I think a lot of it comes down to the weight. I really think that a lot of it comes down to just that. and there's no reason to like overcomplicate it more than that. So what do you guys think? Drop a comment if you disagree with me or have something mean to say. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Let me know what y'all think. See you later.